to the proofs. Okay, so we are given A is parallel to B. Okay, so I know these two are parallel. And 1 is going to be congruent to angle 2. Oh, I'm sorry, angle 3. Angle 1 is congruent to angle 3. Okay, so we need to prove then lines are parallel. We're first starting with A and B being parallel lines. So if these are parallel, then what do we know? Okay, just looking at this diagram over here. If A and B is parallel, C is the transversal. Okay, then what do we know about angle 1 and angle 2? We probably want to say something about that because it's looking like we're going to have to prove that C and D are parallel, and then we'll need to know something about 2 and 3. So right now we've only talked about 1 and 3, and we need to figure out what's going to happen with angle 2 as well. All right, so let's start. I'll start with our givens. All right, angle, or number 1, make sure you guys are definitely numbering these two. A is going to be parallel to B, and that is given. Okay, pen, sorry, and given. Okay. Since A is parallel to B and C is this transversal, right away I can say angle 1 is congruent to angle 2. And I can say that because, again, we're starting, oops, where's the red? We're going to be starting with this information. Okay, if parallel lines, and then I'm going to end with this. Then consecutive or corresponding angles are congruent. Okay, I came from parallel lines, so I started with that, and if they are parallel, then I know corresponding angles are congruent, and 1 and 2 are corresponding. So that's how I'm allowed to say that. All right, so now we're going to write down that angle 1 is congruent to angle 3. And why is that? Well, it's given. And again, you could have written given before, but if you have parallel lines, what can you tell me? I want you guys to get used to that right away. And then from there, we do want to prove, again, C is parallel to D. Well, if C is parallel to D, we need to know something about 2 and 3. But if 1 is congruent to 2, but 1 is also congruent to 3, I can now say angle 2 is congruent to angle 3. And why? Good old substitution. Okay. If these are congruent, then C and D are going to be parallel. C is parallel to D. And again, I'm going to change this a little bit. We're going to start with, we're giving a certain pair of congruent angles. We're starting with that. So if, and what kind of angles are those? Those are corresponding. If corresponding angles are congruent, then I'm ending with parallel lines. Okay, start with red, end with green. So then lines are parallel. Okay. And we're going to go down to number 27. All right, I'm going to start with A is parallel to B, and that's going to be given. I'm going to find A, make my little parallel marks. So if A and B are parallel, then what do I know? What can I say? Well, if these are parallel, then I'm going to know something about 1 and 2. So number 2, right away, I'm going to be able to say angle 1 and angle 2 are they're supplementary. And why? Once again, if I have parallel lines, then consecutive interior angles are supplementary. And look at, I end with this, okay? So make sure you're starting with what it's above and then you're concluding something from that. All right, what else can I say? I can also say, number 3, if I know 1 and 2 are supplementary, I can say angle 1 plus angle 2 equals 180 degrees. And if supplementary, I'm starting with above, then angles add, 280. And I can also say, just from the picture over here, I can see that angle 3 and angle 1 are going to be the same. So angle 1 is going to be congruent to angle 3. And I can say that because they are vertical angles. So vertical angles are congruent. Any vertical angles, they will always, always, always be congruent. Okay, eventually, so you got to stop and think sometimes. I want to prove that 2 and 3 are supplementary. I want to see that this angle and this angle are going to be supplementary. So how am I going to get there? So now if 1 plus 2 equals 180 and 1 is congruent to 3, I can then probably place this into number 1. Okay, so now I'm going to have angle 3 plus angle 2 equals 180. And that is going to be substitution. And then, number 6, I can say angle 2 and angle 3 are supplementary. And the reason why is because, start again with up here, if 2 angles add to 180, then they are supplementary. Very good. Okay, and again, sometimes there are different ways that you guys can go about these, but for the most part, this should be pretty solid and a pretty good base for you guys. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next video, which will be page 5. So stay tuned.